G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Gaming Legends, the show where buttons are just a suggestion. Kirby Air Ride is a racing game played entirely with a single button. Unfortunately, the Switch 2 sequel made the unthinkable decision to add a second button. Well, I won't stand for it! Can you beat Kirby Air Riders without pressing A?
That is not what I meant, and you know it.
Our goal is to complete the road trip campaign on hard mode without ever pressing any buttons mapped to the boost charge function. Thankfully, the in-game control mapping settings are way too robust for a game played with two buttons. We're sadly required to have at least one button mapped to boost charge, but if we disable that one button in the console settings, we run absolutely no risk of pressing it accidentally. The run begins when we boot up the game for the first time on a fresh user account and ends when the credits roll. Since we're playing from a fresh user, we're limited to the 4 starting characters. Any extras would themselves have to be unlocked without the boost button, and while it's theoretically possible to get most of them, I'd rather get started ASAP. Among the starting roster, the two most viable options are King Dedede and Meta Knight, both of whom can attack automatically and have offensive special moves. Between the two, Dedede has the higher top speed and offense stats at the cost of a lower turn stat, so I picked him. Without further ado, let's enter the first stage, Grassland Lane. For those unfamiliar with Road Trip, the goal is to complete challenges to make progress along the path. The specific challenges on offer are 100% consistent, so we don't need to worry about RNG for the most part. The first set of challenges are all air ride races, which always give you a rolling start and a guaranteed start boost. We're not able to brake or charge up a manual boost, which makes this turn on Floria Fields more difficult, but we can still catch up to the AI by driving through the stars left in their wake. We can also get a small speed boost by attacking enemies, which can be done either with a quick spin, done by wiggling the joystick, or automatically with Dedede's hammer. Winning a challenge will raise one of your stats, with the specific stat depending on the challenge. I recommend prioritizing turn and offense patches while ignoring charge patches, since the latter is literally useless to us. You might think boost patches would be useless as well, since we won't be boosting much, but the boost stat actually affects your acceleration even when not boosting. The 3 top ride challenges on offer here are all trivial, especially with the use of items like flame wings. Next came a trio of stadium challenges, all of them racing based. I went with Oval Circuit for the turn patch, but the 2 drag races would likely have been equally viable. After every third challenge is a rest area, which gives you 3 random patches to choose from for free. After the first rest area, we get our first new vehicle, the Winged Star. This thing is slower on the ground than the Warp Star, but faster in the air, making it useful for target flight, high jump, and air glider challenges. I should mention, though, that you're not allowed to change vehicles unless you find a new one, fail a challenge, or reach a rest area, so you'll have to do a mild amount of planning ahead. Case in point, after clearing target flight with the Winged Star, we have a required rival challenge against GUI. Not only are there very few chances to go airborne on this track, but GUI also starts with the speed up item. Despite this though, I was able to overtake him before I got to the cave and maintain my lead all the way to the end. Next I tried a gourmet race challenge, which was a bit harder due to my loose turning circle. I got it on the second try though, partly by stealing food from Rick with a quick spin. Before we reach the next challenge, we have a choice of items to pick up. Since we can't inhale enemies to copy them directly, these items are one of the only ways to obtain copy abilities. Of the 3 on offer here, Needle and Fire both require the boost button to use properly, but Sword attacks automatically, making it objectively the best choice. This came in handy for the arena fight with Scarfy, though I needed to swap to the Warp Star for its tighter turning. After Rest Area 3, we get the chance to skip a challenge entirely and pick up the Wheel or Steel Ball abilities. Both of these are automatic transformation abilities with high speed and attack power, making them extremely useful. The stage ends with a boss fight against Bandana Waddle Dee. Getting enough attacks on him proved a challenge with our lackluster turning abilities. I could get a hit in with Dedede's special, but only a hit. Thankfully, there are several items littering the arena, one such item being the firework cannon. Using this lets us get in some long distance shots and attack multiple times in a row. With one last minute sword hit, we took Bandana D down. Before the fight, we had to choose a road trip companion, which determines where we go for stage 2. Following the speedrun route, I went with Gordo, taking me to Big Brawny Jungle. The first thing I did here was fight Knuckle Joe on Oval Circuit. Using DDD's hammer and a healthy dose of quick spins, I was able to attack him pretty consistently. At the end, I got the Fighter ability from a question mark panel, which has a super strong spin attack, letting me fight Fighter with Fighter. Actually, Oval Circuit is kind of the best track for KO missions, as I was easily able to dispatch 3 Starmen and a Bandana D in the next challenge. Just before Rest Area 2 was a rival battle against Waddle Doo. The arena is nice and open, and I got a Meteor Shower item at the start that absolutely decimated him. After choosing between the Tortilding or Dale, I decided to take on the Huge Pillar. This was an easier boss fight than Dynablade, as crashing into it bounces you backwards without losing any health. All 3 battles after Rest Area 3 are cakewalks, especially the left one against Gooey. If you go in with Steel Ball, you can bowl him over in one hit. Unfortunately, to get out of the jungle, we need to go through the Rocky boss fight. This arena is extremely cramped and circular, making tight turns next to impossible. I tried just about every combination of shop item and machine I can think of, but I could never hit him enough times to even make him start smoking. I even replayed the Gooey fight over and over to build up more offense after each failure, but I never even came close. As far as I've been able to determine, Big Brawny Jungle is impossible to finish without the boost button. Thankfully, I'm a paranoid loser. I wasn't ready to commit to my routing choices, so I kept a backup save back in stage 1. This time, instead of the Gordo, I picked up a Poppy Bros Jr., who redirected me to Mega Blossom Meadow. This isn't just a cosmetic difference, as it has completely different challenges on offer. It also has different wares available in the shop, with this one offering the Jetstar. But, just like its namesake airline, it is the inferior flyer. Sure, you get more lift when you jump, but the Winged Star is better at maintaining altitude. I just bought it on the off chance I could unlock the true ending. There's a Capture Tack mission where we have to defeat every tack. They thankfully only have 1 HP each, so we can easily unleash maximum DD destruction. The first rival challenge is a timed race against Scarfy, which just requires us to be in the lead when time runs out. After another companion, I tried out an air glide challenge. I had no luck with the Jetstar, but the Winged Star showed its might, winning by 6 meters. We don't have to stick with it though, because we can pick up the Chariot immediately after. The Chariot has one of the best natural turning stats in the game, making it the optimal vehicle for arena challenges. The boss challenge is another timed race, which was a pushover with both the Chariot and the Jet ability from the shop. Now we can finally use Paintra to advance to Stage 3 Prism Overpass. Right out of the gate, we picked up the Paper Star, a better flyer than even the Winged Star, but one with almost no durability. It's useful for target flight at least, but it's useless for skydive and survival challenges, so I quickly switched to the Chariot. After skipping both boss fights in favor of Beam Gauntlet, I came across a shop with another new vehicle that I really wanted. But I didn't have enough road miles, so I decided to intentionally lose the timed race against Magalore to restart and farm some more. After reaching the shop again, I had just barely enough road miles to purchase the Wagon Star. With high native top speed, turning, defense, and HP, and no ability to charge boosts in the first place, this baby is practically tailor-made for this run. And serves as a great way to include Crash Bandicoot crates, available now from the machine market. Unfortunately, it also can't use any automatic methods of charging the boost gauge, such as when doing a rolling start or riding grind rails. After failing the aforementioned timed race again, I decided to switch back to the Chariot. It was a close call, but I just barely made it. The next 2 sets of challenges are technically optional due to the presence of a launch pad to jump over them, but I decided to fight Bandana D and then Kirby anyway. After all, you can never have too much offense. The The next set had a surprise interruption from Taranza, who just wanted me to board the halberd. The chariot has literally zero flight capabilities, so I retried from the pause menu and swapped to the paper star. Fun fact, it doesn't actually matter where on the ship you land as long as you touch it. I then made the foolish decision to attempt a high jump challenge with the chariot, but apparently my glide stat was high enough to beat a whole army of starmen. No such miracles occurred in the target flight against Black Widow Susie, however, so I took advantage of a company's biggest weakness, paperwork. With the road trip companion of the wheel copy ability, we proceed to Stage 4, Full Throttle Racetrack. Most of the challenges here take place on Oval Circuit, which is one of the shortest tracks in the game. Along the way, we picked up the wheelie bike, which is a bit faster than the chariot, and the hop star, which is completely useless offensively. Its quick spin is replaced with a jump, and without the boost button, we can't slam it down for a stomp attack. I tried my hand at a race on Checker Nights, but I flubbed the last straightaway and let Marks overtake me at the last second. Rather than spending road miles on a retry, I started over and used a dash ring to plow straight through him on the overworld, skipping the challenge and getting the rewards at the same time. This led straight to a NASCAR race with Waddle Dee, which I won handily. After visiting the shop, I had a surprise encounter with Meta Knight, who challenges me to fight Grand Wheelie. This proved impossible with the Hop Star, but the chariot had no problems with it. I didn't try to defeat all enemies challenge, but I was a little too fast to reliably keep pace with my targets. Thankfully, there was a race I could do instead. The timed race immediately after gave me some trouble, with Scarfy being way too far ahead for me. Those tight turns on Crystalline Fissure were just too much for me. Good thing there's a Flame Wing we can use to skip this set. The final challenge is always the same for Stage 4, a boss fight with Noir DDD. There's plenty of time to finish this one, so as long as you keep grabbing items, you should easily be able to take this imposter down. The paths converge again here, with Stage 5 always being Reefside Ride. Most of the races here are on Waveflow Waters or its top right equivalent. There's an S-shaped curve just before the finish line that can be hard to navigate quickly, but the rest of the track is a piece of cake. I tried an arena battle against Cappy, but the terrain is not favourable. I got stuck on Wispy's roots right at the start and couldn't recover from there. But on the second attempt, I managed to take him out with fireworks with 3 seconds to spare. We then pick up the Rex Wheelie, an absolute powerhouse, but one with poor acceleration and handling. It was just barely enough to win the Kirby Melee challenge here though, and was just the right monster to club it at their Kirby. But we immediately replace it with the best machine in the game, the Wheelie Scooter. Amazing acceleration, awesome jump height without gliding, and the single tightest turning circle. May every stadium arena quake in terror. Not that Overworld's copy abilities can't still help with genocide missions. Using a wheel ability from the shop, I took out every single opponent in one hit. After picking up a friendly resident fish, I took on a top ride race on Flower. Turns out that last hairpin slows you down a lot compared to the much harder AI. After several failed attempts with multiple machines, I finally got a photo finish with, what else, the scooter. The boss fight with Meta Knight gives you the sword ability by default, allowing for quick and easy attacks. Though ironically, it was DDD's hammer that dealt the final blow. His Majesty never cared much for chivalry. With a helpful flood from Kine, we move on to Stage 6, Sunset Shoreline. After blitzing through another Waveflow Waters race, I took on an arena challenge where I got absolutely annihilated by the enemy's fireworks. And that was with a chickie to reduce the difficulty. Thankfully, there's a dash ring right before this one, so I was able to skip it. What I couldn't skip was the rival fight with Gooey. Apparently he's managed to steal an extra brain cell for this fight, because every time I tried to approach him, he used a quick spin to dodge it completely. You're normally supposed to shoot him with the fire ability, but try to remember which button does that. I did manage to land one hit on him with a burning dash from behind, but only the one. Not even the almighty scooter could help us here. Good thing I kept a backup save. Instead of using Kine back in Stage 5, we can use a Twister to go to Mount Daylight Pass instead. Mount Amber Falls is the dominant course here, and the scooter is perfect for its many twists and turns. We also pick up the Turbo Star here, but its larger focus on speed makes it less optimal. Still managed to kill Rocky with it though. For this drag race, I actually found the Wagon Star more useful. Since you barely need to turn, you don't have to worry about handling. I also zigzagged a bit in the middle to prevent the AI from drafting on my wake. The first rival challenge here is a tourney race, which are essentially knockout tours from Mario Kart World, but on a smaller scale. While the scooter is recommended for machine passage, the Wagon Star proved enough to kick out Rick. After an easy genocide mission and blowing up a minecart, we get interrupted by Noir DDD. This challenge is optional, but it will give us a cutscene crystal, and I've gone crystal crazy! Noir has a massive head start on us and will get the speed up item at regular intervals. On my first attempt, he finished before I could even get to the beach. Luckily, we can get a speed up item ourselves from the overworld, which lets us absolutely demolish Noir. Just look at that speedometer! Sure, it wore off just before the beach, but by then it was too late for Noir to catch up. After that, I was able to breeze through the rest of the stage, including the final tourney race. With assistance from Water Golbaros, we move on to Stage 7's Silent Side Street. Most of the events here were pretty trivial, though the Top Ride Cave race was a close call due to all the tight turns. Still did it first try though. After the first rest area, we get our strongest attacker yet, the Vampire Star. This thing has an automatic bite attack when traveling at a decent speed, which is capable of stealing copy abilities from other riders. However, its low turning stat proved problematic in the required timed race on Airtopia Ruins, so the scooter is still the better general purpose machine. But the Vampire did prove extremely useful for attacking missions, such as the surprise encounter with Marks. Chef Kawasaki inhaled a fighter enemy right at the start, but I was able to steal it from him and use its superior quickspin attack to take out both him and Gooey almost instantly. Marks himself was a bit more durable, but with a few well-placed chomps, he too fell. After a couple easy challenges with the scooter, we pick up Fighter and a special up from the shop to take into the boss battle against Magalore. While the Vampire could absolutely have been helpful in the damage department, the city streets would have been impossible to navigate quickly with it. With a healthy dose of fighter spins and a special for good measure, Magalore went down, letting Holo Defense API bring us to Stage 8 Digital Superhighway. The dominant track here is Siberian Highway, for which the scooter is once again perfect. On the very first race, I got a lucky wheel from a panel, letting me catch up easily. At the fork in the road, we take the shrinking path on the left, which actually makes you move faster than the growing path. Noir DDD shows up again just before the first rest area, this time demanding blood, partially because he doesn't have any. And of course, he chooses the worst track in the entire game, the Nebula Belt. No boost pads, no enemies, not even the usual ability panels. All we have to work with for speed is Noir's Wake and the occasional ramp. You're supposed to use the Flash ability to catch up to him and attack, but that would require pressing A button. This challenge is simply impossible with any machine other than the scooter, and even then, it's still a nightmare. Sure, I could have just done the capture tack mission beside him instead, but I need crystals! Crystals! I went back in with a full special gauge and used it to land multiple hits on him right at the start. Once that wore off, I stood in his wake and quick spun whenever I got close. After a grueling game of cat and mouse, Noir's health bar reached 0 just before the finish line. Our reward for that battle, aside from the lore drop, is a new machine, the Transform Star, which can swap between a glider and a bike with every quick spin. This gives it both the jump height to clear high jump challenges and the maneuverability for Waddle Doo's Button Rush challenge. Not that we get to see the latter, since we're forced to use the UFO ability for the entire match. Its high speed is actually a detriment to us, since we can't steer it with as much accuracy. It's still an amazing flyer though, and I was able to get enough points by focusing on the upper levels, which the AI never targets. I had some trouble with this arena battle, getting close to victory on one attempt, but never quite finishing. After several failed attempts, I remembered, oh yeah, there was a dash ring before this one. After an easy top ride time attack, we pick up yet another new machine, the Bull Tank. which is good for straight tracks like Nebula Belt, but has next to no steering ability. This proved problematic for the boss fight with Zero 2, as I was simply unable to get enough attacks in within the time limit. I tried again with the Chariot, using Steel Ball to dodge the first round of obstacles, then a special to rack up the damage early. In the second round, I grabbed a fighter item, rammed right up to Zero 2's face, and spammed quick spins, leaving him in the red. All it took from there was a few more quick spins, and Zero 2 was divided by 0. Fittingly, our companion for this stage was the Crystal Shard, which took us to Stage 9, Crystal Clear Crossing. I first tried to assassinate Bandicoot on Crystalline Fissure, but while I was able to do some decent damage, my first attempt couldn't quite get the kill in time. After several failed attempts with the scooter, I decided to give the wagon a try, and won almost immediately. Our reward is the single best attacking machine in the entire game, the Shadow Star, which you'd think would be helpful for the Destroy Boxes challenge here, but one of the items they can drop is UFO, which completely overrides our machine and our current item. However, it's here I remembered, this game has 2 buttons! If you mash the special button, you'll discard your current copy ability, allowing us to ditch the UFO and properly attack the boxes. After easily taking out Magalore with the scooter and grabbing some free road miles, we have a long-awaited rematch against Rocky. But unlike the jungle fight, this one has plenty of items to grab, and we actually have some decent offense to our name. It only took me 2 tries to take the Rock down. After grabbing our final road trip companion, Gobbler, we have a narrowly close gourmet race on the Beam Gauntlet track, where I only barely won by eating all the bananas.
Leaving, of course, the inhabitants of the hill with no bananas, and therefore bestowing the term selfish upon myself.
I then made the foolish mistake of picking up the literal worst machine in the run, the Bulk Star. This thing's whole gimmick is that it constantly accelerates while there's fuel in the boost gauge, but you need to charge it in the first place or it won't move at all. And the only way to charge it initially is to hold the boost button. So, having said that, this probably looks weird, doesn't it? Yeah, I didn't even know this going in, but this specific Rail Panic Stadium gives you the supercharge item right at the start, which constantly keeps your boost gauge full at all times. I actually managed to win this race on the first try by a mere 0.02 seconds by doing absolutely nothing. After a bit more NASCAR genocide, I brought an invincibility candy at the shop to take into the boss fight against Nightmare, which I didn't even need because there's plenty of fighters and fireworks to go around. With Nightmare vanquished, we use Gobbler to reach Stage 10, Deep Dive Drive. 3 challenges in, I took on a survival mission where the goal was simply to not die. The scooter is a bit of a fragile machine, but the Rex Wheelie is much more defensive. But why settle for defense when you can plead self-defense? If you manage to KO the CPU opponents, as I did en masse with a dropped bomb, there won't be anyone left to fight you. And if you're the sole survivor, the game hands you the win instantly. After the rest area, I took on a surprise Meta Knight encounter, which turned out to be a skydive challenge. I've been putting off this stadium type for the entire run, and for good reason. Without the boost button, we can't fast fall in the air. Gliding machines won't hit the rings fast enough, and bikes and chariots just don't have the precision. So I abandoned that challenge and did a nice easy treasure hunt instead. I then bought the Tank Star from the shop, which can't turn on the ground to save its life, but thankfully the abundance of ramps and the jet power I bought make the subsequent tourney race a breeze regardless. After commandeering the Halberd once again, we use another dash ring to skip straight to Rest Area 3. Of course, what good is taking the ship without dealing with its captain? We don't have our own sword this time, and the Shadow Star proved a little too fast. So it's back to the wagon for this job. It was a close call, but with a last-minute special, Meta Knight was permanently unmasked. Buying an attack up from the shop gave me an advantage in the Noir DDD boss fight, but the Wagon Star just wasn't enough for him. So of course, I used the Shadow Star against this Shadow, which decimated him in no time. Time for the final stage, the Farthest Reach. The first challenge here is a required race on magma flows. Magalore has a strong head start, but the track is densely populated with Gemains. Defeating one with any attack will instantly fill your special gauge, allowing for a potentially infinite supply of jet hammers. After successfully murdering DeRoach, we encounter another shop selling the Formula Star. I couldn't afford it though, and its near non-existent turning stat made it undesirable. So instead I bought some Flame Wings and brought them into an easy rail panic. After Rest Area 1, we get to absolutely demolish some boxes with the Steel Ball ability. Seriously, they better bring this thing into the main series. I then took on Susie on Machine Passage, which has plenty of right-angle turns to ram yourself against and slow down. The rival here is a DD duplicate of the non-noir variety, challenging us to a button rush. While DDD puts up a good fight, he tends to only stick to the ground floor. Target the buttons up top and you should have plenty of points he can't steal. After absolutely obliterating Bandicoot in an air glider challenge, we have a choice of 3 potential boss fights. The only items that spawn in all 3 of these fights are missiles, which we're incapable of shooting. All the damage will have to come from quick spins. Absolutely do not attempt this fight unless you have access to the Shadow or Vampire Stars. Anything else will be literally impossible. We then have the final shop in the entire run, where we pick up the Slick Star and Steel Ball, using the latter to blaze past the Roach & Company in a top ride tourney race. After Rest Area 3, I recommend sticking with the Shadow Star for both sets of challenges. It won't be strong enough for the giant Galactonite battle, but it will be enough to do pretty much everything else. And you'll need to take it with you into the final boss, Gigantus. In order to defeat it, you need to destroy all the weak points on its body. Most of those weak points are found in the air, and there are plenty of launch pads around to get you airborne. You'll also deal bonus damage if you grab an item or ability that can auto-attack, such as Flame Wings or Sword. Also keep in mind that while the engines have 3 separate weak points, they all share 1 health pool. Once you take out the engines, treads, and tower, the final weak point at the core will open. Wait for an opening, glide in from the front or side, and reduce Gigantus' health bar to 0. We're not done yet though, we have one final challenge left, a one-on-one race with the true final boss, Noir DDD. If Noir wins this race, it triggers the bad ending in which the entirety of Popstar gets nuked. And to make matters worse, Noir rubber bands like crazy. The bigger the lead you have on him, the faster he'll catch up. He also has a special move that can completely blind you with almost no way to counter it. The one saving grace is that you have the ability to change machines between attempts without having to redo the Gigantus fight or the prior challenges. But that still doesn't make the race itself any easier. On one attempt, Noir managed to kill me by depleting all my health, and then cross the finish line before the game over screen could play. Your best bet is to stay alive until the final stretch, stay in his wake, and overtake him at the last possible moment. With enough luck, you'll just barely get a photo finish. With the one true DDD proving himself the king of the show, the Kirby Air Riders No A-Button run is officially conquered. Unfortunately, the true ending requires you to have all 22 machines by the end of Stage 11, which is only possible with at least one New Game Plus playthrough. So you know what? Let's do that! During the first run, we unlocked quite a few new characters through completing checklist achievements. This time around, I went with Rick, who has the same speed and offense as DDD, but a much better turn. The run is actually a little easier this time around, since we have access to every machine we collected in the first run. I did mix up the route a little, going through a couple new stages, but most of them were no more difficult than the previous route. However, we're not able to buy machines from the shop anymore outside of the final stage, so we need to prioritize the ones where new machines are found natively. Unfortunately, that includes the Rocket Star found in Sunset Shoreline. You know, the one with the impossible GUI fight? Except maybe it's not impossible. With Rick's unique stats, we can land hits on GUI much more easily. With just a few strategic burning dashes, we can finally take this dark matter reject down. Of course, we do still need to finish the rest of the stage to properly bank the new machine, but nothing new could stand a chance against us. At Digital Superhighway, we need to take a fork in the road. Magman will take us north to Foundry Thoroughfare, where we have to face Meta Knight in a Kirby melee. Both players get frequent access to the bomb ability, but you need to press the boost button in order to throw it. And while it's in our hands, the quick spin is disabled, severely reducing our combat potential. Speedrunners will usually win this match on casual mode by killing Meta Knight himself, but since we're playing on hard mode, that is substantially more difficult. Since we can't throw the bomb, we'll have to drop it instead, either by taking damage or by gliding from the second story and botching the landing. Each explosion should ideally capture as many enemies as possible and should prioritize the big guys worth 5 points. After multiple failed attempts, I finally got a golden run, winning by only 3 points. Our reward is the Battle Chariot, a machine with high defense and offense. After that, King Golem will take us further on to Ruinous Runway, where we find the Swerve Star. If you've been keeping track though, that's only 21 machines. The last machine is the Formula Star, which is found on Boiler Boulevard on the south end of the map. Unfortunately, the route we took bypasses that stage, which could theoretically mean a third playthrough to grab it. But don't worry, Sakurai already thought of that. Remember how none of the shops have any machines on New Game Plus? Turns out there's a special exception for the farthest reach. On both playthroughs, the shops in this stage always have at least one machine that you don't have, letting us buy the Formula Star at the last second. After reaching the end of the stage with all 22 machines in tow, every single one of them gets taken away. Instead, we're given a choice of 2 legendary machines to fight the boss with. The Hydra has the same needs fuel to move mechanic as the Bulk Star, and there's no way to get this thing moving without pressing A. This makes the Dragoon the only valid option. Hyper Gigantus is fought exactly the same as Vanilla Gigantus, though with a much easier time staying airborne. Once the boss goes down, we unlock the path to the secret final stage, Journey's End. This stage is a boss rush against Robo DDD, 02, Nightmare, and Marks. We're forced to use Leo for the entire stage, which has both an automatic attack and a jumping attack performed with a quick spin input. Both are perfectly sufficient to take down all 4 bosses. Just be careful with 02's final phase. Its laser can completely obliterate your entire health bar if you so much as dip your toes in it. After taking out all 4 bosses, we come to the final boss battle, Heart of Nova. The first phase of the fight has us take out all the pillars. In this specific section, the boost button acts as a jump button, and the game really wants us to use it. Thankfully, the regular quick spin input works just fine, and most of the pillars will go down to ground level on the next lap. Once the last pillar falls, all you have to do is swipe at Nova's heart until it breaks. With Nova finally running out of wishes, the Kirby Air Riders No A button run is officially vanquished. If you want to watch the run, I've uploaded the footage to my archive channel. And speaking of which, I have a couple of announcements. First off, I'm on Twitch now. I'll be streaming every Saturday at 9 AM Queensland time at twitch.tv/drrank08. These streams will be focused on speedrunning, including but not limited to Kirby Air Riders, Crash Tag Team Racing, and of course, Finding Nemo. These will not be streamed on YouTube, but any new personal bests will be posted to my archive channel for your viewing pleasure. Meanwhile, challenge runs will still be streamed here on the main channel during weekdays, particularly Tuesdays and Wednesdays. In fact, here's a sneak peek at the next one.
That diet's a joke.
Well, I've heard you can lose a lot of weight on it.
But you can't keep it off. Just eat less and exercise more.
Something's wrong. That's not sunlight.
Hmm?